And we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by the Tree Studios, the publishers and developers of Dames of Asstoria, a tabletop role-playing game where you play as monster girls experiencing high adventure in a world that doesn't fully accept them. They have recently released Daughters of Lamb. This is a pay-what-you-want tabletop RPG where you play as cybernetic nuns with guns, looking for the missing pieces of their AI god. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. A moment please while I check the sound. The sound is good. This channel is also proudly sponsored by the Red Room Publishing. Please check out their store for exclusive tabletop RPG products and check out their Micro Red category of games. They are ready to play tabletop RPGs with their settings and a streamlined version of the Red system, so they are perfect for pick up and play. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment as well. Today is a very interesting and important live stream, I would say, because it has a lot to do with the history of tabletop RPGs. You could even say the history of humanity's madness, and it explains why certain things are occurring in current times. Let's wait a minute to see if more people arrive. We already have four people here. Welcome, be most welcome, because this video is going to be it's going to be challenging, and just like a big disclaimer for YouTube, for the YouTube algorithm, this is all science fiction. This video is not medical advice. If anyone has physical or mental issues, please seek out professional help as quickly as possible. This video will deal with some uncomfortable topics. Welcome, Josh. I am so glad that you are here, and I hope that Roger will also be able to watch this live stream. Okay, 30 more seconds to see if more people arrive. I've been meaning to do this live stream for a long time, but you need to find like the time to do it. You never know how long these live streams are going to be. And I think with the current world situation, I think this is an excellent time to provide some tools to cut through the darkness of the world. All right, let's get started. In order for me to present this material to you, I am going to be using a book as a guideline. The book is the Hawk and Moore, the Steam Tunnel Incident book. Nero, welcome Nero. Do not let the shunners of the world silence you, Jaguar. Yes, Nero, we will not. We will not let the simps of Shunner or anyone else. But yes, this book, Hawk and Moore. Let me show you the cover. Yeah, let's go to Drive Through RPG. Hawk and Moore. Yeah, the Steam Tunnel. Where is it? There we go. All right. Let me share the screen. Sharing the screen. Hawk and Moore. Yeah. As you can see on screen, Hawk and Moore, the Steam Tunnel Incident. The Steam Tunnel Incident. This is a really good book But, unfortunately, the author is a wokester. And he admits it in the book. He's like, I am not biased, I blah, 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 blah. So expect to see a lot of virtue signaling and nonsense throughout the book. But if you manage to cut away through, and there aren't that many wokey paragraphs, but if you manage to tolerate or push aside those wokester moments in the book is actually very accurate. You could say it's the easiest way to understand the incident that we're going to talk about today, that we're going to use as a base to understand the madness of tabletop RPGs in current times. The steam tunnel incident. I am going to give you a brief overview. Oh, by the way, I'm going to highlight that comment, of course. That is a great comment. Alright, so what is the steam tunnel incident? The science fiction YouTube, and this information can be verified from various sources. Okay. In August of 1979, a young man named James Dallas Egbert III, a gifted student, computer science major, and Dungeons and Dragons player, went missing from his dormitory at Michigan State University, or MSU, Michigan State University. Police were finally notified 5 days after he disappeared. MSU administration feared a potential backlash because this missing person was only 16 years old and legally a youngling under MSU protection in lieu of parental supervision. That's why he was like, supposedly, he had a very high IQ, and that's why they put him into college. Yeah, the thing about IQ is that you do have morons with high IQ. The higher the IQ, the higher the chance that the person is going to be actually intelligent, right? But there are some imbeciles that have 3 digits of IQ, and they are the easiest to trick. The first ones to swallow all of the mainstream lies. The first ones to get brainwashed. So the thing about IQ is that even if you have 3 digits of IQ, it doesn't mean that you are automatically intelligent. It means that you have the potential to be an intelligent person. But a lot of people let it go to waste. Okay, moving on. Police, despite a few anonymous tips concerning the steam tunnels, student death, abduction, and a possible conspiracy, had few actual leads. Frustrated with the university and the stalled investigation, this young man's parents contacted the famous private detective William C. Deere, who was not at all a fraud and a showman, who agreed to travel to Michigan with his investigative team. Wow, so professional, right? To find the missing boy. Although, like, boy, did he even identify himself as a boy? We will get to that in a few moments. Or to recover his body. After many false leads, wild theories, fruitless searches, tunnel explorations, altercations, misleading news reports, and rampant bouts of speculation, the boy was finally discovered alive and rescued from a tenement in southern Louisiana. A year and a day after his initial disappearance, James Dallas Egbert III put a certain tool to his head. I am trying to avoid the problems with the algorithm. He put a certain tool to his head and decided to unalive himself. And that's like the summarized version of the case, right? But of course, there is much more to things. There are several questions. And just to get the ball rolling, for starters, Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop RPGs, were employed as scapegoats. In this case, the parents and the detective, they said that Dungeons and Dragons has screwed with the mind of this poor victim, this young lad. His mind was turned into mashed potatoes because of Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs. You know, because every one of us that reads a tabletop RPG, our minds get taken over. The devil indeed! Indeed, the chainsaw, buddy, indeed. And Roger speaks, intelligence is a measure of what has retained. Wisdom and common sense are the true characteristics of growth as human beings. Exactly. IQ is not enough. Like I said, IQ is an advantage. And this is coming from someone with considerably high IQ. To the point, and I'm going to avoid mentioning the name of the organization, to the point when they did the test, suddenly I started to obtain these emails, to get these emails, trying to convince me of joining a particular organization that a lot of you know what that organization is. And they even told me, you can skip immediately contact, and this is not even from my country. Contact your closest office and mention the name of a certain guy. And you can choose from two positions based on your IQ results. You can choose from two positions. Those that wear a hat, let's call them like that, and others that create flashy devices. Flashy and very explosive device. Well, you know. But I don't like being used as a fucking tool. I don't like being used as a tool, so I never took them on their offer. Especially, and it was a good call because, as you know, the powers that be, they are not there to lead us. They are there to serve as science fiction jailers, because they are not from us. They are not our people. They are not even from these lands in science fiction. And those that are actually from these lands, they betrayed our people and they serve someone else. That in science fiction, they appear in lands that are not in the official maps. That's why they give us the round lie. Do you remember the round lie? So, no, not Roger. No, it's super mainstream. It's super mainstream. It's a good guess, but like I said, not even going to mention that. But let's say that they fight. I'm just going to mention that they are the first organization that you can identify with fighting across the world. That one. But just like I said, and just like Roger said, you cannot measure like the true intelligence just because of IQ. There is much more to that. So, let's take a deeper dive into this poor young man's life. James Dallas Egbert III was born on October 29th, 1962. One day after the resolution of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And why is this important, this background? Because a lot of people take a look at tabletop RPGs in current times. And they think, wow, the madness started today, like in our current times. This is the fault of the wokesters. Because the wokesters, don't get me wrong, fucking wokesters, right? Wah! Ugh. No. This started with the right. With the conservatives. And we will get to that in a few moments. So the madness that we are experiencing today is just the result of madness upon madness upon madness piling up. A huge cake of madness that has piled up across the years. This didn't start today. It's the result of a lot of craziness piling up. Now, technically and emotionally, Dallas was still a youngling. But he was widely regarded as a genius. He skipped grades. Chainsaw, a huge delicious cake of madness. Exactly. That is an excellent way to put it. A huge delicious cake of madness. But Dallas because of his high IQ. When you put him to the test in various topics, he excelled. In other cases, he would definitely fail, of course, but in the things that you need to progress through the twisted educational system in science fiction, he excelled. So he started to skip grades, but he couldn't get along with anyone. He couldn't get along with people of his own age because they were kids and they felt uncomfortable with his problem solving capacities. He didn't fit. And then when he started to interact with boys older than him, teenagers can be assholes and jackasses, and adults too. So imagine a kid going to high school, like a very, very young person. Every single problem that you experienced in high school, he went through it at that age. He didn't have the emotional intelligence. He had the mathematical intelligence, perhaps, not the emotional intelligence. So he started to get traumatized. And here is where I suspect. Let me go to read this comment by Roger because it looks really good. Like a really good comment. Conservative wokeness labels are meaningless. The true nature of a person is shown in their actions and deeds alone. Yeah, you only need to just be human. Don't get pulled into the right. Don't get pulled into the left. Don't get pulled into this religion, into this other religion. We are all humans, okay? And like I have done many times in my channel, I have pointed out the many nonsense and contradictions of all of the political nets. And religion is also a political net. Given so many examples like of the lies. Again, in the case of religion, if God is all powerful, why did he need 6 days supposedly to create the world and 1 day of rest? An all powerful being creates it like this in an instant. No rest. Humanity has reached a point of stupidity so big that if a huge titan came along, like a colossus, like you had this huge guy, the size larger than Ultraman or Godzilla or King Kong, he suddenly came along and started wrecking the place. And he would tell us, I am your creator, your father, and I have punished those that were evil and wicked. Bow before me. And most of the moronic population, they would be on their knees. They would be, oh yes, the all-powerful Lord, yes, please don't kill us, yes, we worship you, you are the Father, you are the Father. So yes, please never fall into that deceit. Be humans, be brave, okay? Have a shred of dignity for heaven's sake. So moving on from that. Yes, definitely don't fall into any of those political nets. Now, the dawn of fantasy role-playing. Dallas was a devotee of Dungeons and Dragons, the world's first and premier role-playing. Yeah, like Ultraman, that is, I suspect that Ultraman has a lot to do with the dreams, the hidden dreams of humanity. Because a lot of you know that there are so many suspicious things about the world, right? Let me give like a little, where is it? Just like to put things into perspective. Interesting pics. Yeah. The science fiction YouTube, this is all science fiction. Okay. A lot of you, I imagine that a lot of you are familiar with Attack on Titan. Very successful manga and anime. Oh, the huge giants, right? The huge giants. Where did they get that design? Where did they get it? Let's take a look at some old Mexican illustrations, images, paintings. Wow! Hmm. Very interesting, don't you think? Do you see the resemblance? And look, here's the brave Mexican catapulted like some sort of ballista or cannon propelled this projectile against the back of the head of the Titan. Look, and he's dropping. Can you see here? Can you see he's dropping this arm? He already ate a Mexican. He ate one of my countrymen. Fuck you. Fuck you, you fucking giant. He ate one of my countrymen, and the other one is about to get killed. Ah! But here comes the brave Mexican to attack the back of the head, just like in the show, the weak spot of the Titans, right? That's very metal, indeed. Chainsaw, it's very metal. So, Ultraman, it makes me think that it is the hidden dream of humanity to take down those huge beings. And of course, I'm going to move quickly through various images. Oh, look, 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 look. The USA, Virginia, Massachusetts. Do you think these buildings were made for someone of our size? Just take a look at these images here. Very interesting. These couple of silhouettes look very interesting. But you have all of these people here, right? Look at people of our size. Do you think these fucking structures were made for people of our size? And they were made with hammer and chisels, right? All of this. Oh, it was made with hammer and chisels. And where is this building in the US? Virginia, Massachusetts, Maryland. Where is it? It was destroyed in a fire. Because stone is super flammable, right? No, forget about paper and wood. You need stone to start a fire. Go out into the garden, take a stone, and set it on fire. Super flammable. But yeah, just some of the mysteries, right? Moving on. So, Dallas loved Dungeons and Dragons. The history of fantasy role-playing games is circuitous, meaning meandering and exceedingly complex. Readers who are... No, this is propaganda for the book. Okay. So, basically, Dallas used to love Dungeons and Dragons. And he used Dungeons and Dragons, sadly, as an escape. Let's tackle the thing about escapism in tabletop RPGs. Escapism. Tabletop role-playing games are not an escape of reality. They are a way to understand reality. Through fiction, you carry out simulations of a fictional reality, and you get to understand the things that happen in the real world. So what is that about of the people that fall into escapism? It's not that the tabletop RPGs conduct you to escape reality. Those people... Oh, that's a good... some comments over here. Roger, man has always been fascinated with the unusual and abnormal, and yet we also shun and attack that which we don't immediately understand. What a hypocritical species we are. Yes, the thing about that is that we were not like that all the time. Take a look at some of the older images of Tartaria. In fact, just the other day, a guy was doing a video here on YouTube telling everybody, why is it that in the 1800s, 1900s, most of the people that you see on the street, they are slim, classy. They look like ladies and gentlemen. You will rarely see someone fat or someone that looks like a neckbeard with some deviations. I'm going to share a link. This link is super, super, super delicate. The analogy of cabbage means lab-produced people in science fiction. Because what if in science fiction a certain catastrophe, a certain science fiction reset occurred where most of the population in science fiction was eliminated, only a few remained, and the world was repopulated in science fiction? with lab produced people. Here's the link, the science fiction link. Click it at your own risk. The Starks, of course, in that video, they are not Starks. They are not actually Starks. They are workers that delivered the lab-created individuals, the Cabbage Patch Kids. That's the secret about the Cabbage Patch Kids in science fiction. And those homunculi, those artificially produced people, they started to, in science fiction, to reproduce among each other. And with normal humans in science fiction. And that's why we have so many morons, so many cowards, so many people easy to manipulate. They are mostly artificial. Sad reality. And I don't think, just based on logic, I don't think that any one of our bloodlines was spared from this. That is, it's quite common to think that our ancestors, not knowing better, mixed with those individuals, and perhaps we have a little bit of artificial science fiction blood running in the family lines, right? But moving on to this other comment by Chainsaw Weddy. Politicians believe they are much larger than they really are. Yeah, they have a huge complex when it comes to being large, that indeed. Because, moving on to another science fiction image, in the past, when the science fiction empire of Tartaria was still around, we used to live alongside very, very, very large folks. That's the explanation of why so many temples, mansions, churches, cathedrals, cathode, science fiction. I recommend you search what a cathode is. Flash forward to modern day, we are constantly working on developing homunculi we call robots and artificial intelligence. That's a different type of construct, right? That is correct. But we are like, in my case, I am not working towards that. Like, we is a very large term, right? The ones that are building those things are the jailers. Either in science fiction, the people that come from outside our lands, or those that serve the ones that come from outside of our lands. And once you understand that, it makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Why they don't care about us, why they don't care about our lands, why the world is constantly in conflicts, in science fiction conflicts, why the environment is constantly being destroyed and polluted in science fiction, and we are the ones being blamed for that, not the industrial pollution or the many flights that the environmentalists in science fiction take. In science fiction, this is not real YouTube. No. We trust the mainstream. Imagine how much fuel they burn within every single trip. Imagine a single one of their mansions that spends about 400% more energy than an entire block. No. They are not to blame. It's us. It's our fault. You know, like in religions. Our fault. They always handle the number 3. Because it's a hypnotic number. Always notice the number 3 being used. What was the song? Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord. 3. You want to hypnotize the NPCs? Use the number 3. Always spot the number 3. So yes, politicians, they always want to be large. They want to be big. Like the citizens of sci-fi Tartaria. Moving on from that. It is not known precisely when Dallas himself first learned of Dungeons and Dragons. But it was probably either in high school, probably 1974, or perhaps via the Computer Lab and Tolkien Society at the Michigan State University. So probably 77, 78. Given the circumstances and the geometrically growing popularity of the game throughout each of those passing years, and the publication of the widely proliferated Holmes Dungeons and Dragons Basic Set Edition, 1978 could represent the most likely date. 77 or 78 could be the most likely date and venue for his first exposure to the game. Now let's talk about the university's steam tunnels and tunnel hacking, which is what was used to create this madness of tabletop RPGs, are the bane of the young people. To understand the subterranean world which Dallas found himself exploring at MSU during the years 1978 and 79, we must first strive to understand the culture of gifted isolationists, introverts, and pranksters in the United States universities, a subculture which he swiftly became a part of. For centuries, university youth culture has celebrated pranks as a form of self-expression and rebellion against authority. So, they started to discover networks underneath the universities. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Why do so many universities and buildings such as churches, temples, cathedrals, banks. Oh, the science fiction YouTube. I meant, I didn't say that. I meant tanks. No. Ranks, yeah, the ranks. Why is it that so many of those buildings have tunnels underneath them? I'm going to share a link to search tunnels in this channel. My lunch break. In the My Lunch Break channel, search in tunnels, universities, all sorts of things related to that. Here's the link. So very interesting science fiction channel. Anything related to tunnels, it's going to blow your mind, because those tunnels were there for a long time before those institutions came to be. This is all related from the Tartarian times in science fiction, or even before Tartaria. So yes, this subculture started to try to hack the universities and colleges. They discovered these underground complexes. Let's see. This is a good comment. How come Jaguar is always so entertaining and he gets no likes? Yeah, I know. Please, somebody like my videos. I know, no, seriously. All of my videos have 1 like, 2 likes. Maybe once in a blue moon, 3 likes, 4 likes. Oh yes, 4 likes for me is wow. In fact, I have been getting a bit more likes recently in my last 3 videos. I think I counted 8. So that's something, right? But yeah, moving on. That's a good point. The students started to get into the tunnels and carry out all sorts of games and pranks. It became like their playground, but sadly enough, and this is where Dallas also made the wrong turn. And this is, of course, kept quite hidden in this book written by a Wokester. But in those tunnels, let's see, interesting comment by Roger. I always thought mankind was digging all kinds of tunnels and underground structures. Yes, right, but when you look at... Let me see if I can find the image. Was it in my lunch break? There are some tunnels that make you really wonder, could you actually build that tunnel with pickaxe? Laser? No, it's in the Mente Abierta. Mente Abierta channel. Mente Abierta. Let me show you an image that will blow your mind. Túneles. Aha. I think it's this video. Ah, the volume. Oh fuck! We don't want to trigger some to get the video shadow banned or something. All right. Counting the pyramids, and there are other more impressive tunnels. But taking, let me share the screen. Share the screen. Yeah. Some of these structures, not even with who knows how many people that work for free, that we're not allowed to mention here in YouTube, you know, when you take someone and you force that person to work for free, would they be able to carve and cut their way to make these huge chambers? Most of these chambers in ancient times, without power tools, it would be impossible to shape them. And as you can see, they are already quite damaged by ancient science fiction technological devices. This did not happen because, oh, well, they exist for thousands of years and that, no. Some of these structures, when analyzed by people not in the mainstream, they are suspected to be only a few centuries old. But they were damaged. They were severely damaged by an attack. That's what it is believed in some cases. So when they show you, oh, the ancient ruins of ancient Greece, not that old. Something devastated the entire city because they were cities. You need very precise laser cut technology. If only I could find... Okay, let me see if I can find this laser technology. Because it's really worth taking a look. Mente Abierta channel, we're going to look to impresora. Here's a video showing 3D printing. Where is the 3D printing? Come on. Well, this is another interesting video that showcases the possibility, but there is another video, I can't believe I can find it when they show it to you live. Stone cutting isn't that hard. Let's see, Chainsaw, what do you think about this? Do you think this is so easy to cut with hammer and chisel? I am actually curious about your opinion. Do you think this is created with hammer and chisel? Really? Hammer and chisel. Look, close up. Yeah, hammer and chisel, super easy, right? Hammer and chisel, of course, hammer and chisel. Let me tell you everyone something. No, not even sandpaper. You know why, Chainsaw? Because professional sculptures cannot recreate these sculptures with hammer, chisel, and sandpaper. It's always easy to guess when you have not done the work. But in all of these videos, you're going to have professional sculptures, and they are going to tell you. Go to the ancient statues. Want to see a really, really old statue? All of these are old statues. The David, the... How do you call it in English? The Venus de Milo? The Venus? Just look at these ancient sculptures. Do you think they're not that old? Do you think they do this? Try doing this with hammer and chisel and sandpaper. You go and do this In hammer and chisel, take studies, become a master, and even master sculptors, they are going to tell you it is impossible, absolutely impossible to create these statues with hammer, chisel, sandpaper. No, this is high tech. This is advanced knowledge of both 3D printing and chemistry. And there are still more disturbing rumors that they don't allow anyone to take samples. They don't allow anyone, not in the mainstream, to take samples of these sculptures just to see the composition. They won't allow you. Bernini is so good. Bernini is so good with what, right? What, Bernini, what did you employ? And why do they have so many of these cloths? Like, who threw the cloth on top of the person? Right? Like, why so many cloths? This is not hammer and chisel. No way. No, absolutely fucking way. No. But yes, when you think about 3D printing and chemical substances that harden, then you start to get somewhere, right? But then moving on. Dallas, poor Dallas. Let's see, comment by Nero. She looks like she is about to give me something to strengthen my Estus Blast. Yeah, that is true. Some of them look very hot. Yeah. All right. But moving on. So Dallas. In order for him to belong to the groups of the adults that didn't consider him their equal, he got into two destructive, self-destructive behaviors. First destructive behavior, substances. Because he was high IQ, Dallas started to become really good at creating substances that take you to places, right? That allow you to reach high places. Let me highlight this comment by Roger. The only method I can think of even close to these statuettes is ceramics of some kind to get that delicate detail. That's the conclusion that many have reached, that it was like a combination of 3D printing and liquid stone, like clay. Like you could somehow take the hardest stone, the granite, liquid granite, and mold it somehow. Mold it like clay, like shape it real good, and then harden it. It's a mystery. But yes, Dallas started to become really good at Breaking Bad. He started to create his concussions to go high. And he started to become popular with some others because of that. And here's the other self-destructive behavior of Dallas. He pleasured others and himself in a group environment, right? Of the same sex in science fiction. So the steam tunnels, they started to become a hangout for junkies and people without inhibitions, let's put it like that. Now we move to the next section of this story: computers and catacombs. The convergence of fantasy role-playing games and tunnel exploration. So there was this camaraderie exploration of the tunnels underneath the colleges, and some people started to think, hey, the steam tunnels are potentially, and I don't think this was fully verified, but they thought potentially this is also a great environment, perhaps to play Dungeons and Dragons, maybe. And yes, sometimes you want like a little environment that enhances the mood. I have gone to, for example, in my garden, and some places in the wilderness. We used to play Werewolf the Apocalypse, in the wild areas, not too far away from civilization, but we used to play, and it was a really cool environment. You heard the sounds of the animals, and you felt the air, the smell of the plants, the soil. So it was great for those sessions, right? So imagine, it wouldn't be too far-fetched that some people decided to take their Dungeons and Dragons session into the steam tunnels. Although, as I understand it, the steam tunnels were not exactly very comfortable. And usually they were quite dirty, and they smelled quite a bit. So maybe only certain groups did that. So yes, unfortunately, during his foraging into the steam tunnels, Dallas's parents were experiencing some difficulties. As I understand it, they were going through a divorce. Let me verify that. No. No, I don't think so. No, they were experiencing problems. As I understand it, they were experiencing problems, not yet a divorce. They were experiencing problems. So Dallas started to feel quite isolated. When a child is in a destructive environment in science fiction, he starts to feel alienated from his own family. And he couldn't get along with the students at the university because they were adults and he was still he was in his teens. A teenager going to university, he was not exactly taken in. So he started to feel very, very isolated and depressed. And here it is obvious that the fucking parents of Dallas, they decided to use tabletop RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons as a scapegoat so that people wouldn't question, hey, wait a minute, fucking parents, why didn't you pay attention to your kid? Didn't you see that he was going through those psychological problems? You didn't do anything to help him? You kept taking him to these places of so-called learning, and you know that in those places you don't learn shit. In those places you do not learn shit. Let's see, Roger says, I'm not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, so LARPing in steam tunnels or sewers would be a hard pass for me. Yeah, and imagine ordering a pizza. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles order their pizzas down there. They have to open the manhole. You have to pass the money through perhaps through the grate. Not exactly the healthiest, the most clean environment to do that, right? Let me show you an example of what I was saying. What was I talking about? Yes, the college. Yeah, in college, a lot of you already know this, but in science fiction education, they teach you a bunch of dumb things to keep you very dumb. The things that they teach you in science fiction. In this science fiction YouTube, no, YouTube, this is not true. We love going to school. We love going to college and university. We love it. No, it is the future. That's why the world is so great, because of that. But if we take a look at certain things that they are teaching you, right? Because there is this particular lie in science fiction that tells everyone that we inhabit a science fiction world that is of a very, very peculiar shape, right? It's shaped a bit like a ball. Because, as you know, spheres have their limits. Spheres have their limitations. A sphere is very small when compared to a huge infinite plane. In a huge infinite plane, it is logical to think, very, very logical to think, that there are other lands outside of the official maps, right? So we take a look at the science fiction video. They told us the great brave men that are up there. They are up there right now, facing the dangers of outer space. heroes in science fiction, right? So brave men. They are not actors and they are not ex-convicts at all. They are not taken out of prisons and institutions of mental institutions in science fiction. No, no, that is a lie. Look, look, look. Look at the guy behind him. He's going to stabilize the wires. Oh no, no, the wires are coming loose from the ceiling. We need to stabilize them. And he's like, oh, did you do the flip? Now watch the hip. Watch the hip. Well, while this guy is stabilizing the wires up here on the upper left, take a look at the left hip of this guy in the blue. His left hip. Ah! Don't you think that little spike is a bit suspicious? Almost like something is attached to his pants. What is attached to his pants, right? Could it be that they are using green screen and wires? No, 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 it's a wrinkle. It's a wrinkle of the pants, right? Let's proceed, because it's obviously a wrinkle. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Take a look at this guy's arm. His right arm. Take a look at what he's going to do with his right arm. Oops, oops. Why are you stabilizing the wire? Wait a minute. Let's take a closer look. Let's take a closer look at that. Please, video, move forward so we can take a closer look at that little maneuver that he did. Okay, why is he stabilizing the wire? Take a look at his right hand. Why is he stabilizing the wire? There we go. Why is he stabilizing the fucking wire? Let's see that again. It's supposed to be the magical force of gravity in science fiction. It's the lack of gravity that is keeping him floating, not wires and green screen. And yet, why is he stabilizing the wire? What is he grabbing? What is he grabbing? And this is one of thousands of pieces of evidence that they have been lying to you all this time in science fiction. Recommended channels to verify the lies. Let me reduce the screen. Alright, recommended channels to see through the lies. Recommended channel number 1. The John Thor channel, the science fiction channel. This is the first science fiction channel that I recommend so that you can see through all of the lies. Science fiction channel number 2. What was his name? What's the name of... Because these channels are difficult to find because YouTube doesn't like these channels. Hates the channels. What was the name of this guy? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I can remember his name right now. Let's see if I can remember him some other time. But in the meantime, let us continue. With that channel, you have enough, more than enough pieces of evidence. Yeah, moving on. So, for starters, why do they, if Dallas is such a gifted individual, why did they force him to go to those institutions where they teach you all sorts of lies and the most incompetent methods of mathematics in science fiction and chemistry and physics and everything else? This is no joke. You know that fucker, that imbecile, what was his name? Bloodworth DM. That imbecile. That fucking sack of shit. Bald. With glasses. Like bottom of the barrel. Like the lowest you can get in humanity. Like someone... And those watching the video that actually look like that, you have to agree with me. You have been done wrong. The powers that be have done you so much wrong. But at the very least, you question it, right? This piece of shit does not. You are like, hey, fucking powers that be, why did you screw me over? I ended up with the worst body possible at my current age. Why? Right? So, this fucking guy couldn't understand the difference between future tense and present tense. But that is not the worst case. He is a school teacher. I don't know if he's still teaching, but he is a school teacher and he couldn't tell the fucking difference between present and future. He didn't understand that I will wave my hand is in the future. I am going to wave my hand. Future tense. Very different from I'm waving my hand. I wave my hand. So there you go, the wonders of the science fiction educational system. So why the fuck did they put Dallas in those institutions? And now, thanks to that, Dallas ended up falling into the wrong circles in search for approval and acceptance. He ended up making a huge mistake. He ended up being a junkie. And he ended up doing all sorts of intimate activities as a group with certain preferences. You know, YouTube doesn't like it. So then it happened. Let me skip forward to that moment when supposedly Dallas went into the steam tunnels. There was a moment when Dallas' parents decided to take a little journey, a little trip. And Dallas, being a teenager, he decided to go to his house when his parents were not there. And he didn't find them. He came up with the brilliant idea of, well, my parents do not care about me. My parents are probably doing their thing. So what I am going to do, I am going to break into a friend's house. He, let's see. The fated day had come. On Wednesday, Dallas had lunch with Karen Coleman in the Case Hall cafeteria. Karen noticed that Dallas was deeply depressed, for this was not an unusual thing. She also suspected that he was high on weed in science fiction. Following a slurred conversation, because you know what I find very ridiculous but at the same time very logical. The weed addicts, the pot addicts in science fiction, they start to talk like this, you know, very relaxed. It's so cool. They don't notice this. Like one of the many of the Shonner simps, they are actually pretty into the pot. They have the head deep into the pot, and every time you could tell when they had put their heads into the pot because they started to. So unsupervised youngsters always equal some kind of mayhem. Yeah, I think so. I think that is correct. They need guidance. Otherwise, what example do they have to follow? And even though there are still youngsters that, despite guidance, they are pretty well off, they end up protecting themselves from the horrors of the world. Many of them, they didn't have a chance. So just like I said, that they are become very slurry. So that's why, for example, in all of those fuckers from the RPG Brigade, RPG Crusade, the splinter groups from Shonner's organization, and like I have said, if you don't believe me, check his obituary. I'm going to write it here. This is Science Fiction YouTube. Check the obituary of this fucker. And take a look at the organization that he worked for. The group that he worked for. So yes, that's why in all of those splinter groups, RPG Crusade, RPG Brigade, and the derivatives, they always they speak like, yeah, man, because they are always in the pot with the head deep into the pot. In science fiction, YouTube, this is a joke. Those groups do not exist. According to the later account of William Deere, the so-called detective, Dallas had already planned what he was going to do. He was going to go deep into the steam tunnels. Because his parents were not there, he was going to go into the deep tunnels. Because he couldn't tell the difference between the dungeons in Dungeons and Dragons and the steam tunnels. He fell into this madness where he thought that underneath the university Castle Greyhawk existed. The dungeons of the ruins of Castle Greyhawk from Dungeons and Dragons, right? And poor Gary Gygax and Tim Kask, and you can verify this, they were visited by the police, guided by the brave detective, and not a fraud, not a fucking hoax, not a fucking showman. The police came to visit Gary Gygax and Tim Kask, and they were like, we need you to help us find a young man that because of Dungeons and Dragons has gone into the steam tunnels thinking that it is a dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Oh no! And so Tim Kask and Gary Gygax bravely, they actually had to, because they were almost subtly forced by the law. They had to take charts of the steam tunnels and dungeons from their adventure modules. And they started to try to make sense, like if the steam tunnels resemble one of the dungeons of Dungeons and Dragons of the modules, surely we can predict where this young man ended up, right? Yeah, well, for those of you that are already aware, it turns out that poor Dallas, he did not go into the tunnels, like I said. Long story short, and I recommend that you look deeper into the details of what exactly happened. Perhaps there were a few inconsistencies in what I am about to tell you. But when he didn't find his parents at home, he broke into a friend's house and ate some food from the fridge. Those friends were also, it was a couple of women. I think the building was owned by a couple of women. They were not there, so Dallas ate a bit of their food and then got really bored. Like, I'm just here, there's the university, there are no classes for who knows how many weeks, and I'm going to be bored out of my mind in this house. And so Dallas decided to go to another house. This house, a house of people that like to sleep around with people of their same sex in science fiction. That's not science fiction, YouTube. No. And started to do all sorts of crazy things. And because Dallas was high IQ, he used his knowledge of chemistry to create all sorts of substances, and it was non-stop sleeping around and taking substances in science fiction. But then the investigation proceeded with the detective and the police, and suddenly everybody was looking for Dallas. And what did Dallas do? He looked at the news and he said, fuck. He thought if they find out when I was doing these things all along, I am going to end up screwed forever. And so he went to another state. Where did he end up? He went out of town. He was no longer in Michigan. He went to another state. Let's see if I can find it. Well, he went to another state and got into construction working as a construction worker because they don't ask a lot of questions in those lines of work. They don't care too much about your background. You have they need manpower. I don't know if they still apply those standards, but for example, here in Mexico, I can tell you, and I imagine that in the U.S. as well, there are some places where they take people in those lines of work as long as they need they need the manpower, and the payment is not really good, right? So Dallas started to make a living as a construction worker, and only through many different investigations from various people, Dallas was eventually located, and he was brought back. But the pressure was too hard, and now this had stained the tabletop RPG name. To a point, it was beneficial because people like forbidden things. So we have Dungeons and Dragons, the dangerous game that plays around with your mind through your imagination. So everybody wanted to get it like the Ouija board, like, oh, it's the Ouija board of games. Let's see this comment by Roger. Sounds like the state he went to was called insanity. Yeah. Funny thing about the term insanity, going to back to the Tartarian times in science fiction. Tartaria wasn't taken over in an instant. A lot of people identified certain groups that we cannot mention here in YouTube. Certain groups at science fiction war in current times. You know, a certain group that decided to attack a certain place in science fiction in current times that even got the Donald involved. That certain group started to take over through the Sith, through poisoning of the mind and the body, through the Sith of religion. And those newcomers that came, they could be perhaps astonished. What? But religion is so good, right? Again, if God is all powerful, why did he need 6 days to create the world and 1 day of rest? An all powerful being creates it in an instant and doesn't need rest. If God is good, why did he kill all of the members of the family of Hob and tortured Hob just to see if Hob was faithful to him? A good God doesn't do that. An all-powerful, all-knowable God already knows that you are faithful to him. An all-powerful God doesn't need angels and demons and floods to unalive people. If he wanted to unalive someone, he would do it with but a thought. That's how people get deceived. So put the other cheek. Almost the entirety of Tartaria fell upon the various grasps of the different religions. Religions are there to pacify you in science fiction. They are there to calm you down, to put the other cheek, to remain asleep, to remain pacified, while your enemies destroy you. Got destroyed. And the people that actually fought and warned others against this, they were put into buildings. Insanity. Insane asylums in science fiction. In science fiction, this is all science fiction. This is Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu, YouTube. Insane. The sane people are in the building. The sane people are in the building. And that's how those institutions started. Right now, there are actually people with mental problems that are placed there, but they started as buildings where the sane were put inside. Insanity, insane. That's the origin of the word. But just Dallas was recovered, and the fathers immediately started to blame tabletop role-playing games. The parents, the father and mother of Dallas, they started to blame tabletop RPGs because they played with their son's mind. And the detective deer that was a showman, he started to say that Dungeons and Dragons was the cause of the disappearance. There was even a movie, do you remember, starring Tom Hanks? Do you remember that movie, The Dungeon Master? We have it right here in YouTube, right? Dungeon Master film. The Dungeon Master. Yeah, here it is. The Dungeon Master. Let me share the screen. 1984 movie starring Tom Hanks. Share the screen, share the screen. Here you can find it on YouTube. Dungeon Master. I'm not going to play it because sometimes I get hit by copyright. But the Dungeon Master, you can find the more video clips and whatnot. The story of the film, basically Tom Hanks is Dallas. Roger, everyone needs an evil to blame for their own shortcomings. Exactly. And that is a brilliant way to put it. Roger, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. The parents didn't want people to start thinking, hey, fucking parents, why didn't you help your son? He was desperate for help. He was going into substances and he was sleeping around with a bunch of crazy people and you didn't do anything to help him. No, it's the fault of Dungeons and Dragons, quickly. It's the fault of Dungeons and Dragons. And many of the other parents, they jumped on the bandwagon. All of the parents with problem, especially parents with problem children, Roger says, I thought the Tom Hanks movie was Mazes and Monsters. Up! That's true. No, wait a minute. Let me verify that. Wait a minute. Ah, that is true. Thank you, Roger. Thank you for the correction. Correction, big correction. This is the correct film. Thank you, Roger. Thank you. I almost made a mistake. Mazes and Monsters. 1982. Confused it. Dungeon Master is actually really good. I was confusing it. Mazes and Monsters, starring Tom Hanks. Starring Tom Hanks, definitely. There it is. And I was just thinking, why isn't Tom Hanks in the cover of the trailer, right? But the Mazes and Monsters, correct. Correct, Roger. Yeah. Thank you. So Mazes and Monsters, that's like, and that's actually like, it's an entertaining movie. I saw it many years back, but I found the craziness in the mind of the main character to be like ridiculous but entertaining, because he starts to look at the world as if it's like a Dungeons and Dragons environment, and he even like fights with a guy that tries to mug him, I think, right in one of the scenes, as if that guy was like an orc or something. So yeah, that is correct. So the parents that had problem children, they started to blame tabletop RPGs. And Roger speaks, I have an uncontrollable talent for remembering very obscure trivia. That's a good talent. Really, really good talent, They started to take it out on tabletop RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons. When we were on speaking terms, even well-known arsonist and murderer in science fiction, Mark Vikernes told me that his mother took his original copy of the Temple of the Elemental Evil. In fact, a moment please. Just a moment. Here we go. This one. Well, this is not the original copy. This is the newer edition by Goodman Games. Sadly, Goodman Games went down the woke rabbit hole. But oh, it's so dusty. Wait. Oof! I need to run this game one of these days. The Temple of Elemental Evil. Yeah, and so Mark Vikernes actually had the original module, and because of the blame tabletop RPGs, his mother destroyed it. And this happened to several people. Luckily not to me, because my parents at the very least had the common sense of not listening to the media when it comes to entertainment. But so many others, they listened to pastors, to the priests, to religion, to media, and they started to burn all of the tabletop RPG books and destroy them, and into the trash they go. So, for everyone that is saying, tabletop RPGs became crazy because today it's because of the wokesters and the left. Like I said, I don't like the wokesters, I don't like the left, I don't like the right either. I don't like the conservatives, especially because they are dishonest and liars. The madness originated with the conservatives. Don't get me started with the, oh no, it was the left. No, 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 no. In the 80s, they went full throttle. And then Jack Chick with his tract, Dark Dungeons. They made a movie, a parody of that tract. It's good. I have it. Dark Dungeons. Roger speaks. Common sense is Earth's most powerful and rare precious resource. Yeah. So many people fail to apply it. And it's a constant struggle. Like, I apply common sense, but throughout the years, there were many times I did not apply common sense. But when I had the opportunity to do so, when somebody, for example, like a friend, I owe many things to other people that suddenly they told me, hey, did you ever think about this? Or, wait a minute, don't you think there is this inconsistency? All right? And I started to awaken my mind like, you know what, that is correct. That doesn't make sense. That is not logical. That is nonsensical. And sadly, like I said, you always need to keep your common sense, because some of the people that actually revealed many interesting things to me, they ended up falling into various... for example, I had a friend that was very considerably intelligent, but he had some problems with his wife and child. And he turned to substances. Last time I heard from here, and I heard from him, and he was very intelligent. He was one of those rare geniuses. I thought gold was. You could say common sense is gold. Crow. It's a different type of gold, right? But my friend, he was able to solve any sort of computer related problem. He could almost hack into any system. He was incredible. But when he turned to substances, it all went down to shit. He was unrecognizable. So always stay away from those things. Keep your common sense. Moving on from that, like I said, the religion started to go full throttle, telling you that Dungeons and Dragons was the tool of the devil, and you were going to end up becoming a Satanist, and blah blah blah. And all of the Christians started to in Mexico, it was also pretty bad. As you know, we were still not so much today, but a few decades back, we were still under the vice grip of religion. Right now, a lot of people are aware that it's all bullshit. And again, for those that have arrived, this doesn't mean that there are no spiritual powers. That is, oxygen itself, fire. We cannot take a piece of fire. Fire exists in both worlds, right? There are many nuances. Great ideas, the creation of devices, just like the computer that you are using. That computer was a concept floating somewhere, but we brought it into the material plane. All of your ideas, they are just there floating in the immaterial plane of existence. But through human ingenuity and willpower and imagination, we build things, we create things. So there is a part of the spiritual aspect. This is not to say that humans are not spiritual and that there is not like a spiritual force, but religion always wants you to worship certain idols. Always. Don't worship anything, just exist. Don't be a simp. Why do you want to simp for another entity? Don't simp. Just be yourself. Fuck. Don't become a simp. But just religion did such a bad thing when it comes to the reputation of tabletop RPGs, but at the same time, that really pushed the sales up because everybody wanted the forbidden role-playing games. So in current times, you see the wokesters. You see them doing all sorts of crazy things, telling you that we need safe spaces because if your character gets unalived or an imaginary spider jumps on your imaginary character in an imaginary game, in an imaginary world, it turns out that you are not safe. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, so they need their safe space. You have a bunch of kidults that never grew up. But we didn't get to this point just like this. There was a build-up starting in the conservative 80s. The madness of the left, of the wokesters, of the woke. They are the ultimate evolution of the madness started with the right, with the conservatives in science fiction. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. It's a different sort of religion to the point that they carry out their witch hunts. You don't like the woke? You are a bigot. You are a bigot. You are bad person. You must like what I want you to like. I must have complete control over your mind. Nobody should have control over your mind. Nobody. Fuck them. If you dislike the woke, fuck the woke. You dislike the right, fuck them. You dislike religion, fuck religion. Dislike it all. You are a free human being. Nobody should have control over what you like or dislike. You don't like this country, you don't have to like it. You don't like this organization, this corporation, you don't have to like it. Nobody is in control of what you like. Nobody should get into your mind. They are so... I want to use a term, but YouTube will probably won't like it. They like to go inside uninvited. Let's put it like that. So I just wanted to highlight that. The beginning of madness in tabletop RPGs, this is not an actual thing. This is not something that happened right now. It's something that has been happening for a long time. It's thanks to the sane people that things have remained somewhat stable. But don't think like, oh, it was the wokesters and you have these individuals with their cotton candy colored hair and their piercings everywhere, even though the metals could be quite damaging, quite poisonous, especially the very sensitive areas, the triangle of unaliveness, as they call it more technically. They put their piercings and tattoos everywhere. Take a look in science fiction at studies done on twins. You had a twin that had no body modifications, a twin that did have those modifications. Guess who ended up with the condition that I cannot mention in YouTube? It's the third zodiac sign. I think it's the third one, right? That starts with a can, and then we wait a bit and ends with a sir, the big C. So yes, there's a lot of stupidity and madness when it comes to the wokesters, but we got to that point thanks to the madness that began in the 80s. The conservative, right-wing driven 80s. So don't fall into those political nets. I have shown to you in this video, for those of you that have already arrived, I have shown to you that they have been lying about the nature of this world, that they have been lying when it comes to spirituality. Spot the contradictions. So the wokesters, of course, they are to blame. I am one of that zodiac sign, exactly. That zodiac sign. I am also that one, but I am also a Leo. I am this zodiac signs, YouTube. I am Cancer Leo cusp. I am in the middle of the two signs. The two signs. So make no mistake. Whenever someone said that it happened with the woke, it originated with the woke, no, it happened a long, long time ago. Just had my 55th birthday last weekend. Happy birthday, Roger. Excellent. 55. Awesome. You are one of the winners because you know how so many people are losing their are suffering from unaliving, from the unaliving in before that age. I wonder why. So great for you, Roger. Keep on the healthy lifestyle. You are going to regenerate. All of those things that you are like, "Ugh," at the very least, you can fight to regenerate. Because people, they put out that lie that, oh, once you hit 40 or 50, you start to become weaker and sick. And you're not going to, no. Look for a healthy, natural lifestyle. And you will live many years, healthily, happily. Now, before we wrap this up, does anybody have some further comments on this? Because it is a complex topic. It's nothing like you can just skim over so quickly, but I try to cover the main points, giving you lots of examples. Seriously, those that arrived late, take a look at the full video and you will see some pretty crazy things, right? So many lies. I almost forgot. Very important point. Why is it that in current times the kiddos think that tabletop RPGs are dangerous? Because they have gotten to the point, their minds have deteriorated to the point that they cannot tell fantasy from fiction. Right now, I am imagining a dwarf in my hand. And in this other hand, I have a giant jumping spider. Oh no, the imaginary jumping spider is jumping on top of the dwarf and eating him and killing him. Not dangerous. I'm okay. I'm okay. Do you see? I'm alright. I'm alright. So for those that have arachnophobia or certain issues, definitely look for help. Professional help. And then you can enjoy tabletop RPGs fighting giant spiders in the dungeons and whatnot. Isn't that super cool? When you solve those issues and you get to fight all sorts of imaginary monsters from the safety, from the absolute safety of your house or wherever it is that you are playing. So people cannot tell fiction from reality in a lot of cases. Let me highlight this. The whole satanic panic era is a lesson in what not to do when some new thing comes along. People should quit assuming just because something is new, it's automatically evil. But like I said, it's most like a scapegoat thing, because this is not just tabletop RPGs. This was also movies. This was also music, rock and roll. This was also anime. In current times, the major credit card companies in science fiction, they have put prohibitions, for example, in Japan, and here, even here in the West. If you wanted to use the store, what's the store where they say spicy, they sell spicy content? Why is one of those stores where there are several of those stores where they sell spicy anime and video games content? DL site. You cannot use the major dispensers. You cannot use the major credit cards in DL site and other spicy stores because no, it's bad, right? And yet, those credit cards are still being used to buy PDF file materials, PDF files. This is a PDF file, YouTube. We're talking about PDF files. And all of you know what, like the PDF files. In fact, I'm going to write something here. This is science fiction. In the chat, you will see a little keyword. So those credit cards are still being used all over the world to buy PDF file materials. So it's dangerous to buy fictional things, but it's perfectly safe, doable to still use your cards to buy those things? Really? Really? Or could it be that you are part of the ring, right? Of a certain ring. So imagine the poor fat guys that they don't have hope of getting like a huge, bodacious, incredibly beautiful babe. And they buy their material because that's the only way they can relax, right? Relax. That's the only way that they can unleash the tension. And then they're like, FBI, open up! FBI! In science fiction. What do you have there? Do you have Black Bible? Do you have Queen's Blade? That's dangerous. That's illegal. Open up. Let those poor anime girls alone, you sicko. We're here to defend the anime girls. But then, they use their purchases of the PDF file material. Oh no, okay. Proceed. Fucking clown world. Fucking disgusting clown world. So yeah, this is just like a little exposition of the madness of the world. The science fiction YouTube, we don't believe any of this. We're just role-playing. This is a role-playing games channel. We're talking about a setting, a weird setting. It's called Clown World. This is not real. This is fiction. We don't mean any of this. So thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone who came to watch this live stream. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Nero. Thank you to Chainsaw. I don't know if Chainsaw is still here because he seemed to have some issues about the statues of the hammer and chisel and sandpaper. But if you're still here, thank you. And thank you to Nero, Roger, Crow. Thank you to everyone for watching this live stream. What is this? Roger has an interesting comment. If anyone hasn't seen the movie along this subject, Equilibrium is a great watch. I've never seen it. Oh, thank you, Chainsaw. Chainsaw loves you. He told me to come. I am glad. For a moment, my feelings were hurt. I thought, Chainsaw, no! Chainsaw, please! But thank you, Chainsaw, and thank you, Crow. Because this is a smallish channel. I value all of you that took the time to watch this live stream. Like as much as a stranger can, right? I really hate the parasocial YouTubers that are like, I love each and every one of you. You are like my family and friends. No. I was like, with strangers, come on. Like, but as much as I can appreciate you from one stranger to another. And thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the super thanks button. Like, subscribe, take a look at the information in the description, the pinned comment. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening, day, wherever you are. See you later.